We are approaching Ruben Amorim's last game for Sporting as Sporting take on Sporting Braga in Amorim's final game for the club. In Amorim's final European game and final game at the Alvalade, we managed to beat Man City 4-1. And on the back of that, I'm looking to see what players Ruben Amorim could bring with him from Sporting to Manchester United. And of course, I could just sit here and name the best players of Sporting. I could say United should just take them. But what I'm going to do is going to give two very obvious ones to start off with, then two sort of less obvious ones, and we're going to do around 4 players in total, maybe a few honourable mentions, or maybe I'll save that for another video, let me know. But I think there's definitely 2 obvious candidates that you could bring from Sporting, then 2 lesser known ones that are more of the cheaper alternatives and also in positions that I think Man United can improve. I'm Sam Fonseca and this is 4 Sporting players that Ruben Amorim could bring with him to Man United. So number 1 might be the most obvious one, and that is Victor Gyökeres. I'm 25 years old. There's already been so much said about Victor Gyökeres. There's not much more I can add to the topic. But under Ruben Amorim, Victor Gyökeres has had 67 appearances and got 66 goals and 19 assists. He is one of the best strikers, not the best striker the league has ever seen. And we've seen some great strikers like Radamel Falcao, Mario Jardel, just to name a few. And for me, Victor Gyökeres takes the mould as the best striker to ever play in the league. Victor Gyökeres turned Sporting's attack into a good one, into a world-class one. Of course, beating Man City 4-1, like I mentioned earlier, Gyökeres scoring a hat-trick and just scoring for fun in general. Football is too easy for Victor Gyökeres. And I think when you look at Man United's team, that attacking position is something that Man United have lacked for a while. You could argue the only success that Man United have had as that striker role is a compatriot of Victor Gyökeres, and that is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Even Lukaku wasn't that, great of a buy for Man United. He was decent, but he wasn't a success. You've got guys now like Højlund and Zirkzee who are more potential future greats more than greats right now. And I think if you're looking at players who will come in and hit the ground running, Victor Gyökeres is one of them players. You saw it against Man City. He can create his own chances. Just give him the ball and he can do the rest. Running from the halfway line to the opposition box, and Victor Gyökeres does it so easily. His finishing is fantastic, physicality is fantastic as well. Victor Gyökeres is a fantastic player. Like I said, there's not going to be much more that I can say that the press or Ruben Amorim or just tacticos in general have already said about Victor Gyökeres. There is always the element of, can he do it in the big leagues? And I made the video a few days ago about the Farmers League narrative of Liga Portugal and how Victor Gyökeres has already done it against great teams like Porto, Benfica and now Man City, as well as scoring against Atalanta, scoring against Lille as well. He's been doing it on the biggest stage in the Champions League, and I think that could translate well to Man United. I don't know if they'll have the funds to buy him in January, and that is, I guess, the only negative of Victor Gyökeres, and that is the release clause of €100 million or 85 or so million pounds. There's been a rumour saying that Man United could buy him for as little as 65 million. But if I'm Sporting, why am I budging from 100 million? Why am I letting players like Antony, João Felix and Darwin Núñez go for almost more, if not the same price, as someone who's been as good as Victor Gyökeres? Victor Gyökeres outscored Darwin Núñez already, and he's done that in less time than Darwin Núñez was even in the league. Gyökeres has only been in the Portuguese league for 1.5 seasons, and he has scored that many goals. His injury history is good. He barely takes any time off injured. He's been one of our most reliable players for Sporting as well in terms of just showing up. He plays pretty much every game as well. There's the saying of a Duracell bunny where he just constantly runs and runs like he runs on batteries. He doesn't seem tired, and even in the 90th minute, he's still making those runs. He's still being physical. He's still winning duels in the air. He does it all. And I think looking at Man United's team, they need someone like Victor Gyökeres. And it's one of them where it's like, just open the checkbook, give Sporting whatever they want for Victor Gyökeres and see if they can do it. Obviously, as a caveat to this, I don't want any of these Sporting players to go. I want them all to stay. Hopefully they stay for the rest of their careers. But I know money talks, and if they beat the release clause, then who am I to say where a player should and shouldn't go? But yeah, number 1, definitely Victor Gyökeres, a striker that Man United need, and I think just a finisher that is going to go to another European elite if Manchester United don't act quickly. I think you look at Arsenal, they could deal with a striker like Victor Gyökeres. Even teams that are moving away from, like, for example, Barcelona moving away from Lewandowski, they could go make a move for Victor Gyökeres. Victor Gyökeres improves pretty much 99% of teams he'd go to. Maybe, I don't know about Man City, if he's better than Haaland at this stage, if he's better than Harry Kane at this stage. But if you look at all the rest of the teams, I think he improves those. So yeah, number 1, Victor Gyökeres. Number 2 is a bit of a, I wouldn't say a strange one, but it's definitely a more risky transfer, and that is Giovanni Kenda. And it's been one that has been linked to Man United recently, been linked to Arsenal. But that game against Man City was incredible, and I think that's going to put a lot of teams on notice. Giovanni Kenda is 17 years old, and he plays like he's been playing for years. He looks like an experienced fullback. But that's the thing. He is naturally a winger. He's not a wing back. And when you look at Amorim's system and how he tries to implement that at United, Giovanni Kenda could be sort of the right wing back of the future. Like I said, 17 years old. And if you're going to buy him, he's going to be at Manchester United, hopefully, for the next 10 or so years. Now, this one might be a bit of a risk because you could argue he's only 17 and he's not hit his full potential yet. But looking at someone like Giovanni Kenda, if this isn't his full potential, then his full potential is actually quite scary. He plays like such a mature right wing back, and he's been doing so in Amorim's system for the last sort of 3 months anyway. And he could play on the left side, he could play on the right side. He was brought up as a winger, so he could also play in that position for Ruben Amorim at Man United. But I look at the way Ruben Amorim is going to sort of implement his philosophy and his formation, his tactics to Man United. Giovanni Kenda could be sort of an assertive dominance, saying, look, this is going to be the right wing back for the future as long as I'm here. And Giovanni Kenda's pretty much only is going up. He's not going to come down, I don't think. He is just fantastic. He improves with every game. Here, 1v1 defending for someone of his age is fantastic, and someone who is naturally a winger. His 1-to-1 attacking as well. He can take players on with ease. He scored already on his debut against FC Porto of all clubs. And the performance against Man City shows that he is ready for the big stage and that he doesn't cower away from the spotlight. And as you say, pressure makes diamonds, and Giovanni Kenda is definitely a diamond. Again, you could look at the price tag and maybe be put off by it. It's probably going to be 100 million, and it's one Amorim will probably have to pay the full release clause to get, or Dan Ashworth, whoever the sporting director, whoever is in charge of the transfer to Man United. They're not going to let Giovanni Kenda go. Sporting aren't going to let Giovanni Kenda go for anything less than his release clause, I would imagine. Especially since Sporting own 100% of his sell-on fee. With Victor Gyökeres commentary have, I think, 20%. So Giovanni Kenda was made in the academy, so all funds are going directly back to the club. Obviously, there's some agent fees involved in there as well. But Sporting will likely try and get as much value of that as possible. And when we look at similar players of age who have left the Portuguese league, João Felix is a big one, even with 120 million. Of course, a striker is different to a wing-back or winger. But when you look at Atletico Madrid paying that for someone like João Felix, I think Sporting should be expecting a 100 million bid to come in. Like I said, it's another one of those where it's not from Man United, it's going to be from someone else. The upside on Giovanni Kenda is enormous. Of course, there's always, do they peak too early? And we've seen a few of that, those instances at Man United and just in the Premier League in general where players have, peaked early and maybe not lived up to the hype. I don't know if you can classify Marcus Rashford in that situation. I got some backlash in the last video for saying that maybe Amorim won't work well with Marcus Rashford. I'm sure he'll give him a chance, but I just think at 27 years of age, maybe he did peak at 22, 23 when he was breaking through and scoring goals. And that happens to some players, unfortunately. But I think Giovanni Kenda is someone who could play at the right back or left wing back position, can play on the wings as well. And I just think the upside is tremendous for him. He is a jack of all trades, really. And say he's a master at none is just not true. Like I mentioned earlier, his going forward, he is phenomenal. He is so good on the ball, so calm on the ball for someone of his age as well. He takes time, that he rarely makes mistakes. And when he does, like I said, he's 17. He's going to learn from those mistakes. And he's been one of the best Sporting players this season. And, considering who we have at right back, we had Jenny last year playing at right back. Of course, you have guys like Ricardo Esgaio who are more experienced. And for me, Giovanni Kenda is better than them both. But of course, what you're paying for at the moment is potential as well. He is obviously very good right now. Can he keep it up? It remains to be seen. But I think when you look at Man United and look at Ineos, their rebuild structure is going to be similar to what Sporting's was, which was, buying these young players and trying to build for the future. And let's say if Giovanni comes in at 100 million, maybe you get him less, maybe like 90 or 80 million for someone of his age, and he improves. Who's stopping United from, selling him to PSG, to Real Madrid for, more money, for profit? Or who's saying that Giovanni Kenda won't be a right back or a right wing back, a left wing back that Man United won't keep for the rest of his career? Because that's what you're trying to buy for with some of these players, is trying to buy them young so they stay at the club for a while and either make a profit on them. And I think that's what Ineos are trying to do with like Højlund, with Xerxes. with Lenny Yoro as well. These guys all under the age of 23, 22, and they're coming in for potential, but they're also coming in for their ability now. Hasn't quite worked out with Ziyech or Højlund. It remains to be seen with Lenny Yoro coming back from injury. But I think someone like Giovanni Kenda can be sort of to that mould of buying young. The risks are there, of course, as it is with any 17-year-old that you buy. But I think Giovanni Kenda should be a lock for number 2 if Amorim were to bring a Sporting player in. Now, I mentioned earlier that the first 2 are going to be sort of the obvious ones, and ones that have been linked with Man United before. Gyökeres, of course, is a no-brainer. I say Giovanni Kenda is. And I could sit here and name guys like, Diamonde, Hjulmand, but I think those are too obvious, and those will be very costly as well. So I'm going to try and go a little bit sort of to left field and find 2 players that I think could improve Man United, but will cost less than those 2 previous, Gyökeres and Giovanni Kenda. Number 3, I'm going to go for Pedro Gonzalez. Now, this I think could be a little bit of a not controversial one, but maybe one people aren't thinking because United wingers are pretty good, and I see Pedro Gonzalez as someone quite similar to Bruno Fernandes in terms of play styles. But I think Pedro Gonzalez has been the most successful person in Ruben Amorim's sort of rebuild or project, whatever you want to call it. And Pedro Gonzalez has been so consistent throughout his years under Amorim. Under his first season under Ruben Amorim, Pedro Gonzalez won the Golden Boot from the winger position in 32 appearances, scoring 23 goals. And he's been consistent ever since, really. He had a bit of an off-season the season after, but played less games. 27 games in the league, 8 goals. Season after, 33 games in the league, 15 goals. And the season after that, 32 appearances and 11 goals. So he is consistent in goal scoring. But Pedro Gonzalez, if you look at that game against Man City as well, the setup for the goal with Maxi Araujo and also the first pass to Victor Gyökeres, which unfortunately Gyökeres missed, that is what Pedro Gonzalez does. He's quick to react. He's great on the ball. He's a great goal scorer for a winger as well. And when I say similar to Bruno Fernandes, I mean, taking shots from outside the box. I mean, progressive ball playing. And also, on maybe the negative side, Pedro Gonzalez is a whinger like Bruno Fernandes. If his teammates aren't up to standard, he's going to let them know about it on the pitch. And some might say that's a negative, but I think it's also a positive as well. You want a natural leader like that. And maybe for Bruno Fernandes, it rubs some people the wrong way. But for Pedro Gonzalez, it seemed to work for him at Sporting. And I can see Pedro Gonzalez in Amorim's system, which he has been. But under Man United, I think on the wings, of course, but also as a midfielder. Sometimes he's played in that midfield pivot when we've had guys like Ugarte or Morita have been injured, or Bragança have been injured or not been fit. Pedro Gonzalez could play in the middle as well, but I think he's more suited to that winger position. He's also more suited as a sort of number 8 behind the striker as well. I think, when he played Man City, he sort of played right behind Gyökeres instead of more out wide. He was more in the middle, in the centre, and I think that was good. And that's what he used to play for Millicao as well before he joined Sporting. So it's a position he's used to playing. If Amorim changes the formation a bit and goes in the midfield with a 3-5-2 maybe, packs the midfield a bit, I can see Pedro Gonzalez playing behind the striker. If it is Gyökeres or if it's someone like Højlund or Ziyech, I think he'll benefit there as well. But also, Pedro Gonzalez is a big game player. Goals against Arsenal, goals against Benfica, goals against Borussia Dortmund. He really does it all. And of course, that won the goal for Arsenal as well. You can call it fluke, you can call it whatever you want, but that's what Pedro Gonzalez is capable of. And like I mentioned, the assist in the Man City game, he was just phenomenal. That sort of play he did to Kovacic sent him the wrong way on that Maxi Araujo goal. And then the pass was pitch perfect both times. Picture perfect passes for Gyökeres and for Maxi Araujo. And that is what Pedro Gonzalez is capable of. And I think he's probably going to cost around sort of 40, 45 million, maybe 50 at a push. I don't think he's going to go for anything more than that. And I think that could be a bargain deal for Manchester United if they were to sort of pull the trigger on that. And I think he can come in and improve the squad. I don't know how it would work with someone like Bruno Fernandes, because I'm still not sure what role Bruno Fernandes has to play in this Man United team. Is he going to be played as a midfielder? Can he maybe be trialled on the wings on sort of a Pedro Gonzalez position, or somewhere like how Pablo Sarabia was under Sporting as well? It remains to be seen, but I think, Pedro Gonzalez is someone has improved under Amorim and has been the most successful player of Ruben Amorim's project at Sporting. You can make the case for like Gyökeres as well, guys like Coates and people like that, Ugarte, Hjulmand. But in terms of being consistent and, now getting national team call-ups. Pedro Gonzalez is there as well. And this season already, he's scored 4 goals in the league in only 7 appearances. And for a lot of those, he's been out injured. So I would say Pedro Gonzalez is a really safe option for Man United. He's not going to cost the same amount as like an Anthony or anyone like that. I think maybe 50 million at a push. I don't think Sporting are going to want more than that. And I think they'll probably be inclined to let Pedro Gonzalez go if he wanted to. I think he's been a great servant to the club. Maybe not in January, but definitely in the summer. But yeah, I think Pedro Gonzalez could be another one of those players that could be a successful player under Amorim at United. And I think United fans all love Pedro Gonzalez as well. He works hard. I know, like I said, he's a bit of a moaner, a bit of a whinger, but I think some of that leadership is needed at Man United. And it seems like maybe Bruno Fernandes gets a bit criticised for that. But I think, sometimes it can be positive if you've got the right mentality in the team. And if you're winning like Sporting are and Sporting have been, when Pedro Gonzalez is like that trying to push people on, it's a lot different to say when you're in 6th place or when you're losing and Bruno Fernandes is sort of throwing his hands in the air and stuff. But I think that's just the player Pedro Gonzalez is, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's sort of a safer option and a cheaper option as well, if that was to be the case. So yeah, number 3 is going to be Pedro Gonzalez. Before I give the last player, if you have enjoyed this content and the content surrounding Ruben Amorim and the Portuguese League, please leave a subscribe or leave a like, leave a comment, whatever. I'm so close. I'm pushing for 1,000 subscribers. Right now, I'm close to 800. I don't know if I've hit that at the time of recording, but I believe I was maybe... Let's see. Let's refresh my YouTube page. We are currently on 801 subscribers. The growth has been crazy. Looking at the dashboard as well, I've hit 521 subscribers in the last 28 days. 200 away from 1,000. Can we do it? Please try and help me out here, and I'll try and provide some more insight into Ruben Amorim and to Sporting and to Man United as I can. Like I said, I'm not the smartest guy. Don't have the best ball knowledge, but I've grown up around Sporting. I've watched enough football of Ruben Amorim to know what he wants and what his style is. So yeah, if you do like the content, please let me know. I'm open to criticism as well. If you disagree, if you agree, let me know in the comments below. Number 4, though, I said it's going to be, a bit of a left field one. And this one is definitely sort of the leftist of left field. And number 4, give me Hifumi Morita. The reason I've gone with Morita is because, like Pedro Gonzalez, he has been a consistent player under Ruben Amorim. And also, he's going to be the cheapest option out of the 4. I reckon at his age, 29 years of age, it'll probably take maybe 15 million, maybe even less than that, to get Morita away from Sporting. And, 97 appearances for Sporting, nearly hitting 100. And he's been so reliable. And he's a fan favourite. He's a favourite of the players. He works hard. And genuinely, there is just... I love Hifumi Morita. My words cannot describe how much I love him. He is someone who always works hard and, tries his best. And sometimes you saw against City, maybe he makes a mistake. And, that did happen, unfortunately, on a big stage. But that is very much unlike Morita. I don't know if it was the occasion. I don't know if it was maybe just, lack of awareness. But Morita has been fantastic for his years at Sporting. And since Amorim brought him in, I think it was 2 seasons ago now, he has been one of Amorim's favourites to work with. Ruben Amorim had a famous quote about Morita. He said, "I think every player should train at least one Japanese player. A player who is always ready to help the team, apologises 1,000 times a day, is very respectful, will play anywhere and just wants to learn. I only have good things to say about Hifumi Morita." That is someone with the skill set that I think Man United could have. Morita is also a leader. He's a captain without being a captain. And in that midfield role, I think that's exactly what you want. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Morita comes in and replaces Kobe Manu or replaces Ugarte. But I think as a solid bench option, as a rotation option, in basketball, you need a 6th man. I think Morita could be that for Man United. He's also played in the pivot with Ugarte before. And those two, I think, as much as great as Hjulmand and Morita, and Hjulmand, the Braganza, or João Paulinho, Mateus Nunes has been, one of my favourite midfielders to watch was Ugarte and Morita. They were both so good in that season. And although it didn't really replicate that in the league title and the league standings, in Europe it did, of course. Both of them playing against, Juventus, Arsenal, and in that Europa League run, in the Champions League run as well. I think both of them just complement each other so well. It may not get the same attention as Victor Gyökeres or Diamonde or Pedro Gonzalez, but Morita has emerged as an essential cog in Sporting's 11 and played an invaluable role in the league title last season. Just to give some stats on that title-winning season, Morita played 2,737 minutes across all games, had 48 touches per game, had 86% passing accuracy, nearly 1.5 tackles per game. And he's just so good in Amorim's system. Maybe he's not a Man United level, I don't know. But like I said, as sort of a rotation option, as a bench option, and as the cheapest option you could probably get from Sporting, I would say it would be a good move. But the best thing I would say about Morita is sort of how unnoticed he gets. And it's one of them where he isn't really going to show on the stats. He's not going to get you great goals. He's not going to shoot from far out and get these amazing goals or, step overs, anything like that. And I will say the Japanese international, he doesn't make headlines. He doesn't, he's not going to be the forefront of the team. He's not going to score amazing goals. But he's so well-rounded for a midfielder, and he's a contributing factor to balancing the team. I don't even know if Morita was supposed to be a starting option for Ruben Amorim, because Matheus Nunes and Ugarte were supposed to be the pivot. But when Matheus Nunes left for Wolves, it left a massive hole in the team. And luckily, Morita was there to fill it. One of my good friends, Kevin, wrote an article in which you can find a link in the description as well. But just to read from that quickly, Morita has a plethora of technical and physical resources that allows him to succeed in a variety of contexts. Acting as the Swiss Army knife, there you go, of the Sporting midfield. His mobility combined with his cerebral defensive style allows him to succeed as a ball winner in advanced or deeper territory. I think that sums up Morita to a T. A midfielder that you can rely upon, someone who's played so many games for Sporting. And I think when you look at Man United, you want someone like that, someone who's willing to come in and fight for the badge on the shirt and, play as much and often as he can and try and learn as much as he can. That is Morita, and Ruben Amorim even said it. He is one of the best players he's ever coached. And just to end off this section as well, I'm going to read from what Kevin said again. Morita plays like his personality, with modest and intelligent being two words to describe both. Never world class in all phases of play, never outclassed either. That is Morita to a T. Like I said, will probably cost 10-15 million pounds. And I think you could do a lot worse than Morita. When you look at Man United's bench, you've got guys like Eriksen. I don't know if he can play Ruben Amorim's system. Of course, you've got the pivot of Ugarte and Mainu, which I think is going to be the one. Casemiro might be on the way out as well. You can do a lot worse than replacing those guys with Hifumi Morita. But like I said, the last two were sort of left field phases. I don't think any of those two will go. Pedro Gonzalez is probably the most likely one. But I still think, Morita shouldn't be laughed at. And you might think, oh, maybe he's just trying to push Sporting's bad players on United. But if you ask any other Sporting fan, they love Morita. Morita is one of the best midfielders we have because he is just so good and so consistent that he does go unnoticed sometimes. But I think Man United could do a lot worse than Morita. But yeah, if you did like this video, please let me know. What did you think of my suggestions? Obviously, Gyökeres and Kenda are obvious ones. What did you think of my suggestions of Pedro Gonzalez and Hifumi Morita? Do you think anyone else from that Sporting side should be in there, like Diamonde, the Bast, or even other players like Trincao and Hjulmand? What do you think? I've been Sam Fonseca. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Peace.